Okay, guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Strong Dad Army podcast. My guest today, to me, needs absolutely no introduction, but there's too much to say about this guy, so I've got to introduce him. He's an absolute legend in the fitness industry. He might not agree with that, but he's trained he's trained multiple NFL players, including Superbowl winners such as Brian. We have Brian Cushing, Dave Deal, even Chris Hogan. He's also coached numerous UFC fighters, including Mickey Gall, and he also coached Dan Hardy during his fight camp for the welterweight championship with GSP. And he still to this day coaches WWE superstars Triple H and his wife Stephanie Mcmahon. He runs his own facility over in New Jersey in the USA. He's a husband, and most importantly, he's a father. Please welcome to the show, the one and only Joe Defranco. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much for that intro, brother. That was very humbling. It means a lot. Making me look good. I got to live up to the hype now.
Yeah, I was getting nervous in case I got it wrong. Yeah, so I know. I mean, obviously we talk every now and then via Instagram and things like that, and I'm in touch with many coaches in sort of my local area in the UK. Of course, CPPS coaches over in the USA and things like that. And I know a lot of those guys and girls are going to be extremely jealous that I'm talking to you today. So first off, I'm just going to ask you, because of, obviously the timing is perfect. Let's get the negative stuff out of the way. How is everything affecting you over in New Jersey with the COVID, the lockdown? How are things for you and your family at the minute?
Everyone in my household is healthy, so I am thankful for that. First and foremost, that's number one. Obviously, it's not easy, just like it's not easy for anyone. But my business has been affected. Thankfully, I've moved to more online stuff over the course of the last couple years. Yep. My CPPS certification with Smitty. As you know, we partnered on that years ago and just started the online course a year ago. So the timing was perfect. That has helped tremendously. And then we have our Defranco Insider membership community as well. So thankfully those things, especially now, and I think for the future, obviously the internet and social media has been growing and is a big part of everyone's lives. But now with this, I think it's going to only get bigger, because even when things hopefully go back to normal or close to normal, there's still going to be a lot of people that just don't feel comfortable going to a gym and being around other sweaty people, breathing heavy. And so I think the online communities like our Defranco Insider, online certifications, training people remotely, like we spoke briefly before we started, doing a Zoom session. I just got done training Stephanie Mcmahon about 20 minutes ago before we started this call through FaceTime. She's in New Hampshire right now. So all those things, I try to look on the positive side. So I think this will prepare us for what the fitness industry is going to look like, even when things get back to a little bit more normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I think like you said, the online aspect of whether it be, coaching or certifications, like you say, you and Smitty do, shout out to Smitty as well. They are, luckily for you, I mean, I say luckily, but, fortunately for you, because you have had that set up and sort of built the foundation of that over a couple of years, you've obviously, you've got something in place already. So at least you've probably not had to sort of, the buzzword at the minute I keep hearing is pivot your business too much. Yeah. So that's great. Unfortunately, again, for myself, because I do quite a lot of online coaching, I still do some in-person coaching in the garage here behind me, but I do quite a lot of online stuff as well. So fortunately, the majority of my clients have stuck with me as well, and they're still killing it.
Yeah. If you're a trainer, coach right now, and you haven't moved to some online training, if you want to stay in business, I think you're going to have to. I think it's going to be a necessary evil at this point, whether you like it or not. And listen, I prefer in person. I think we would all say way more than these online sessions, but
Yeah.
it's a real option right now. And for some people, it's the only option if they have a family member who might be susceptible to this, or, you know, in the at-risk category with an autoimmune disease or something, and they want to take their health and fitness seriously, but they can't take the risk of going out. Like, somebody's got to be able to help those people and train those people. So we all have a little extra time on our hands now. Now's the time to, if you don't like the computer, if you know, learn how to use it, learn how to like it a little more, because you're going to need it.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree. Obviously, I mean, I've, just for the guys and girls listening, I've followed Joe for well over 10 years now. I actually got introduced to Joe. I'll just give the guy a shout out. Actually, I had an operation on my knee through an injury at work in the fire service. And when I was coming back I wanted to make sure I was in a decent position to go back to work and be as, you know, healthy and strong as possible. I contacted a guy, Phil Marsden, his name is, runs a facility, a successful facility in our local town. And so shout out to Phil over at Wellness Strength Training. He introduced me to the concepts of yourself, Joe, and Smitty. He put me on a program that was, after looking back, was very loosely based on not Strong Bastard, West Side for Skinny Bastards. Yeah, it was loosely based on that. And you know what? It did me really well. I really enjoyed it, and it opened my eyes to a new way of training. So like I said, I've followed you for quite some time now. So I know, you know, a lot about you, as in the stuff that you give away on the internet. Obviously not personal stuff, but, you know, there's probably going to be quite a few people listening who may never have heard of you. They may never have seen you before online or anything like that. So I was wondering if we can maybe go over some sort of backstory with you, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, to start us off, I mean, I was thinking, like, I know obviously you played football, or American football as we call it, from a young age. So I don't know, maybe you could start there, take us through your story from there.
Yeah, so I originally started training for football. I wasn't, you know, a lot of kids start with the bodybuilding and just wanting to look good and, you know, get girls kind of thing. My thing was, I wanted to be the best football player. I wanted to play in the NFL. That was my only goal as a kid. So I was begging my dad to train me from the time I was 5-6 years old. He said I'd be asking him to take me to the gym, and he held off. I was doing push-ups and calisthenics and stuff for as long as I can remember. But I started playing football at 7 years old, and, you know, really excelled at an early age. And then through those younger years, did more stuff at home, like I said, the push-ups and calisthenics and that type of stuff. And then when I was going into 8th grade, 1 year before entering high school, 11, 12 years old, he finally let me go to the gym with him. And I just, like, immediately hooked, addicted, like, loved it. My dad had and this is a backstory of how my gyms, which now the warehouse garage type gyms that are very popular, even CrossFit, the CrossFit boxes and that whole atmosphere and setup of kind of like bare essentials, you know, you just need an open space, a box. Like, we were doing that my dad was doing it 50 years ago. Now it's super popular, but, you know, my gym, I always loved that more than like the fancy, I call them carpet and chrome health clubs, where it's air conditioned, it's pretty, you don't want to sweat on any of the equipment. You know, he had a warehouse. It was upstairs from a factory building in a really bad section of Paterson, New Jersey. And it was just a private gym for police officers, firefighters, military. It was just this kind of like an underground place for all these badass dudes that trained. And that's where I was introduced to training. So that type of warehouse, they had a welder make all their equipment. They didn't have any like commercial equipment. There was no Nautilus or Cybex. It was a welder that welded all the equipment for them. So just an amazing experience for me. It definitely laid the foundation for what I wanted to do with my life. A lot of people say at that time you can't make a living doing this stuff, but I was just like, I'm going to find a way. Yeah. I want to train people in this type of environment, but that's getting ahead. But so I trained for football. After that first year of training with him, my first year playing football after a full off season of strength training, I don't want to, I'm 44 years old. I'm not trying to brag about my 12-year-old glory days, but it's more for me, it's like the power of strength training, like what it did to me physically and mentally. Mm-hmm. To this day, I could vividly remember like putting on my football uniform after having played 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. I got 5 years of football under my belt already. But that 6th year of playing with this like newfound strength and size, I just remember I actually didn't make weight. There was a weight limit to play running back. So I had to play tight end. So I just basically had to block people, and I was able to catch some passes, score some touchdowns that way. But the first dude that I blocked, the second I hit him, he flew about 5 yards back and landed flat on his ass. I ran down the field. The first guy I saw hit him. He does a backflip, like rolls down the field. I just remember looking to my dad on the sidelines. And we actually have VHS tapes. I'm trying to get them converted because people would just get a kick out of seeing them.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like I'm not exaggerating. I would hit kids and they'd go flying and backflipping. It was just crazy. And then that led into high school and excelling. I went to a real big powerhouse, nationally ranked. I went to Bergen Catholic High School, which to this day is just like a national power in sports. Mm-hmm. And I went there and excelled, was a 3-year starter, had scholarship offers, the whole 9 yards, continued strength training, loved training. And then unfortunately, I got a tumor in my sacrum developed my senior year, mm-hmm. which won't tell that. I've told the story a million times. You can find it online somewhere. But the short version is I didn't know what it was. I just woke up one day with excruciating pain shooting down my leg and in my back. I played my entire senior year of high school with it. But I would say, I was probably playing at like 50 or 60%. The pain was just unbearable. Mm-hmm. Still did really well, but lost a lot of my Division I scholarship offers and ended up going to a small school, played another 2 years while I was continuing to see doctors, have procedures, back surgeries, going through hell. My junior year in college, they finally discover, holy shit, you have a tumor growing in your sacrum and it's broken the bone. And that's why you have so much nerve pain. The bone fragments have hit your sciatic nerve running down your leg. So finally it takes a couple more procedures and surgeries to remove the tumor. Mm-hmm. At that point, I was so messed up, although the nerve pain went away and the tumor pain went away, which was amazing. But I had a lot of residual damage from all of the procedures. To this day, I have nerve damage and drop foot on my left leg. My tibialis muscle on the left side is almost non-existent. Mm-hmm. Still deal with a lot of chronic pain. But that was kind of the backstory. When my NFL dream was taken away, I was devastated, cried myself to sleep many nights, like literally crying, not knowing what I'm going to do with my life. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided. It was like one day, and I talk about this, there's a documentary called Strong with my backstory a little bit. Yeah, but it was one day that I just said, I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for myself for the rest of my life. I need something to occupy my mind, and I need something what else am I passionate about? My life has revolved around football and training up to this point. What else is there? Mm-hmm. And then that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to focus. I was studying exercise science in college. I said, I'm even going to go in harder now because I don't have football. I'm just going to train and study the anatomy, physiology, biomechanics. I'm going to get as much knowledge as I can, and then I want to help other people achieve the goals that they want to achieve, because I wasn't able to accomplish my ultimate goal. And that's how I got into the personal training and gym industry. That's the backstory.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. Obviously, like I said, I've heard the story before, but that must have been shattering for you.
Yeah, it was a difficult time in my life. My parents still, they're in their 70s, and when it gets brought up, like my mom still can't talk about it without crying. Like she can't even. 20, 30 years later, it was 5 years of like doctor appointments and surgeons and waiting 6 months to see the top doctor in the world that we finally got an appointment with, and then the disappointment of them not knowing what the hell was going on. Then we went through this period where they thought they thought I was just like having having a rough time at home, and it was all mental, and they would bring in psychiatrists to talk to me when I was trying to see like an orthopedic to look at my back. It was just, it was rough. But the day they discovered the tumor was actually the most relieved I ever was, because I was scared to death, because it was benign, thank God. I didn't know that. We didn't know that initially. But I was just so glad that they found out what it was, and then they could actually treat something specific, rather than not knowing and just cut. I had back surgery where they cut me through my stomach to get to my back. They went through the back. I've had needles poked and prodded. It was just awful, an awful experience. But it on the bright side, it got me to where I am today. I always say if I didn't have that, I may have been stubborn and just chased that NFL dream. And I was pretty good at football, but I'm not, arrogant enough to say I would have played in the NFL. It was my goal. But having trained a lot of NFL players now, I see how freaking good you have to be to make it at that level. There's a pretty damn good chance I wouldn't have made it. Or if I did, maybe you play a year or two, you get cut, and then you don't know what the hell to do for the rest of your life. So it was maybe a blessing in disguise. It was hell to go through, but it got me to where I am today.
Yeah, cool. So what sort of age are we talking about that you were when you actually started your business then? When you started to train people for a living?
So I didn't start with my own business. In college, I had to do a full semester internship working at a facility, something that it was actually real good, because they made you go basically work for someone in the field that you wanted to be in. So those, like in my major, I also had people that were studying to become teachers, like phys ed, health and phys ed teachers. So they would have to go work at a school. If you wanted to be a gym owner, you go work at a health club. I wanted to be in sports performance and train athletes. But this is 1998 when I was in my final semester of college. There wasn't a lot of, facilities that were just dedicated to athletes. Yeah. And I got lucky in about 15 minutes from where I grew up. Bill Parisi at the Parisi Speed School was one of the original sports performance facilities. At the time, it was a regular health club, and they just had a little track along the side of the health club, and they did some speed training for younger kids. But that was about as close as you could get to a sports performance facility. Yeah. So I got an internship at Parisi's, worked there for a year for free as part of my internship, worked predominantly with young kids, 7 to 11 years old. Then they hired me, and I ended up working there for a total of 5 years.
Right.
You kind of worked my way up the ladder there, started with young kids, pretty much developed their strength program, because they were just doing like speed and agility when I first started working there. Developed the strength program, started training more high school, college athletes. Next thing you know, we started getting more NFL athletes, and we started the NFL Combine prep program there when I was at Parisi's. So I was able to get a lot of experience there. And then in 2003, February of 2003 is when I went on my own, and my first quote unquote gym was a storage closet, a literal storage closet that I rented out from in the downstairs of an existing health club.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my own business at 27 years old in 2003.
2003, cool. So, so then, obviously, as I mentioned in sort of the introduction, that you've trained numerous NFL players for a start off. When was it then? When did you get your sort of first NFL or prospective NFL player? Because I know you did, like you said, the combine, which, I mean, by all means, if you want to explain what the combine is, there might be quite a few listeners who don't know what the combine is or how that came about working with professional or potential professional athletes.
Yeah, that started it. So the NFL Combine is basically, if you've never heard of that, it's basically a job interview, the ultimate job interview for college football players.
It's like a trial kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. What's that?
Like a trial?
Yeah, it's basically they invite the top 300 to 350 college football players in the world, get invited to the NFL Combine. And it's 4 days. They do from mental testing. They interview them. They make them do like full body MRI scans so that none of them could lie about any former injuries or surgeries they may have had. Yeah. They x-ray their body, scan their body. Doctors examine them, the whole nine. It's super, super thorough. But a big part of it, the main part of it, is the physical testing. That's where you see guys running a 40-yard dash. That's where that's become so popular in the NFL, whether or not it's the best test. It's something that they test and still seem to weigh quite heavily. They test their vertical jump, their bench press, a broad jump, a couple different agility shuttle runs. So we started a program where we were preparing some of these top college players came to our facility when I was working at Parisi's to prepare for the combine. And we, right off the bat, our very first year doing it, we just had tremendous success because I think, A, there wasn't a lot of trainers focusing on that at the time.
Yeah.
B, the ones that were, and this is still a problem, you know, in our industry, they were just training them, like generally trying to kick the crap out of them. Yeah. And, you know, be like the tough cheerleader type trainer, I call it, where you get this stud college football player and you're the trainer and you try to just impress them by making them, you know, run until they puke and lift into failure every single set. And it's just kind of this general, you know, metabolic conditioning type of training. Mm-hmm. And then they send them off to the combine. And, you know, a lot of these guys, they would do all right because they're just freak athletes, but you didn't see a lot of improvement. Mm-hmm. We looked at it as, I always looked at it like the Olympic Games. Like I looked at the 40-yard dash, the vertical jump, the broad jump, like Olympic events. And I really wanted to dissect them from a technical standpoint and the biomechanics behind it, and really look at the technique and just like figure out what is the most optimal way to jump and sprint and start and stand before you sprint. Like we took more the technical approach, because the other thing, the thing with the combine is you don't have a lot of time to train these guys because their football season ends, and then they have anywhere from as little as 4 weeks to maybe 8 to 10 if you're lucky. So you're not going to make a ton of physical changes. You certainly can, but the real changes take place with the technical aspect. So we focused on that, and our results were like, people couldn't believe the results. To this day, I still have some guys that have all-time records in NFL combine tests. And that really snowballed, and pretty quickly. Like the next year we got more athletes and better athletes. And then the next year we got more. So that's where I started working with a lot of NFL guys, because those college kids that you prepared for the combine, if they did well, They ended up getting drafted to the NFL, and now you have yourself a whole bunch of NFL players coming to you. And when I went on my own, a lot of those guys came with me. And then a very unique aspect of my business was I was fortunate enough, and I just think I'm not taking all the credit with the training. I think I was blessed with some great kids and great athletes coupled with the training and the atmosphere of the gym, like a perfect storm. I had 7 high school kids when I was in 2003, when I started the Storage Closet Gym. 7 kids that were in high school at that time trained with me through high school, through college, and ended up making it to the NFL. So actually, I don't know if there's another trainer who could say that they had 7 high school kids that they trained ended up going to the NFL.
Yeah, I highly doubt it, to be honest with you. So, but what you're saying is the system works.
It's some of the, like a guy like Brian Cushing would have been in the NFL with or without me. 100%.
Oh yeah.
I would like to think if you ever asked him, has Joe Defranco helped your career? I would like to think he would say yes, but I certainly am not taking credit for those guys going to the NFL. I think a lot of them would have been there. Anyway, we just helped a little bit.
So fast forward quite a few years, because I know you went, obviously you say you had your storage closet, and I know at one point you had a huge facility. I remember, I think that was around about the time I started getting into your stuff and watching your videos and things like that. You had this big facility. So obviously you had all the NFL players coming through. And then eventually, I mean, it's up to you. You can tell the story if you want, but you got a call from a man that very many people will know as Triple H. And Triple H wanted you to oversee his training after an injury. Is that right?
Yeah, he had just tore his bicep tendon. Funny, because a lot of you guys know Triple H, WWE wrestler, big, jacked, strong dude. And just goes to show you how with injuries, and we've all done this, and as you get older, more and more you hear about like the guy sneezing and blowing out his back, or tying his shoe and blowing out his back. It's not the sneeze or the tying the shoe. It's all the cumulative damage you've done over the years, and then it just it happens to go once you get older. But that happened to him. He said he was on a movie set, just like pumping up for a scene with, I think he said 20-pound dumbbells. He's doing just little like pump curls, and just pop, bicep tendon torn off the bone, complete tear. Bicep rolls down his arm. He said he was, he's always had, from wrestling, he's got a lot of different injuries, and his shoulder and his neck had been bothering him, he said, for a couple years. Like he couldn't lift his arm. But like a lot of great athletes and lifters, he just worked around it, suck it up, and you just keep training and training and wrestling. And then here he was on a movie set doing some light pump curls, rips his bicep off the bone. And that was after a couple years prior, tore his quad tendon, and then did it again on the other leg. And one of them you could still see, you could go on YouTube. He was wrestling Chris Jericho, tore his quad tendon off the bone. Most people know, listening, how big your quads are. Picture tearing that right off, the tendon ripped in half off the bone. Ends up finishing the match with a torn quad. And like the dude, Chris Jericho's finishing move is like this move where it's like a camel clutch, or the walls of Jericho, he calls it.
Yeah.
It's the worst move you could be put in if you tore your quad, because it's just a huge stretch on like your abs and your quads, and horrible. Yeah. But anyway, has that injury, makes a comeback, year later or so, tears the other quad. Couple of years later, tears his shoulder. Now he's in his 40s and he's still wrestling. And this is one thing I just respect the hell out of Triple H, because he's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. Super into training, and certainly knows how to train. But he always trained more for the look and aesthetics. Obviously, the wrestling business, there's a huge aesthetic component to that.
Especially back in the day,
Yeah, back in the day, it was way more. It's just about being you want to look like a real life superhero. Is how all his generation looked at their business. But he was smart enough to say, you know what? I've always studied training like a bodybuilder and training to look good. Now I'm in my 40s. Clearly, I need to do something different. Like within a couple of years, now things are just starting to tear off the bone. That's somebody trying to tell me something. So he started researching on his own, like some of the buzzwords. I don't like the word functional, but he said, he started looking up, Googling functional training like an athlete, how do football players train? How do collegiate wrestlers train? And I guess my name popped up in a lot of his searches. And he said he clicked on a few of my articles, a couple. I used to do an Ask Joe, which was a Q&A that I would send out an email newsletter when that was big back in 2003 and 2004. He found, I always kept those posted on my website, and it had like a blog section. And so that was something that was cool, because back when I was writing those, I didn't have a huge audience, so like no one was really reading it in the beginning. But that stuff stays on the internet. Here we are in 2011. Triple H is looking up shoulder rehab exercises, and one of my old Ask Joe Q&As pops up where I'm talking about like band pull-aparts and iso hold YWTs, and mobilizing your pecs and your lats, and he takes some of the advice that I wrote about, and I guess it worked really well. And then he started researching more of my stuff, and tried a couple other things out that worked really well. And then one day he just said, hey, I never even met this guy, but some of the free advice he's given online has helped me more than other people and things have done for me. Let me give him a call and see if he'll meet with me and give me some advice on rehabbing this shoulder and just kind of revamping my training style. And he called me. I didn't know his real name. So that's the other funny story. I was training a bunch of college kids, and the intern at the time was answering the phones. It was actually my wife now, girlfriend at the time, says, some guy left a message. He says he's a pro wrestler. His name is Paul Levesque or Levesque. And I was like, God, a pro wrestler? I never heard of a pro. Like, I've heard of Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I never heard Paul Levesque. I put it on the desk. Maybe I'll call him later if I have time. And an intern and one of the college kids in the group that I was training both were like, whoa. What does it say on that paper? And then she shows them, and they're like, Paul Levesque, that's Triple H's name in real life. I was like, shut up. No way. And I went on the computer real quick. I Googled it. I was like, holy shit, Triple H just called the gym? And she's like, yeah, he said to call him back. And I remember, the college kids were like, we'll finish the warm-up on our own. Go make that call so he doesn't go calling some other trainer.
Well, that was good.
I called him, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Yeah, good. That's it. So, and obviously you're still training those guys to this day. Maybe, I don't know if it's as often as usual, or obviously you're probably not doing it in person at the minute, but you're still heavily involved with those guys.
Yes, 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary of training this year.
Cool.
It's crazy how fast that went. But in that time, I started just training Triple H, but 2 months later, Stephanie Mcmahon, his wife, they had just had their third child. So then she was cleared to train. So 3 months in, I start training both of them. Mm-hmm. And now we have trained in person at least twice a week, every week for 10 years. And I do all their programming. So I go to their house on average twice a week, anywhere from 2 to 4 times, but usually it's twice these days. Mm-hmm. And when they travel, That's why I was kind of a little bit prepared because they travel so much. There's always at least 2 workouts where we would either FaceTime or I would film the videos here in my basement of new exercises. I text them the workout, and if there's any new exercises in the program, I shoot them videos of those workouts. If they're going to be in a hotel, I'll design them like a body weight only workout that they could do in their hotel room. So we've been kind of doing this for 10 years. Now with this quarantine, it's just all of our training. Right now we're doing all training through FaceTime or Zoom. But once this is over, we'll resume. But yeah, it's been 10 years. I've had the opportunity, as you now know as well. In that time, Triple H started the WWE Performance Center, modeled the strength and conditioning after like our style of training. It's a CPPS kind of certified program. We got Sean Hayes is the head strength and conditioning coach over there, who when they asked me to hire someone, he was like one of the first guys that came to mind, just because he had just been through our CPPS program. He does a phenomenal job there. So yeah, gotten a chance to kind of work with the WWE some too through that connection. So it's been amazing.
Cool. That's awesome. So leading on from there then, to completely segue from what we've been talking about. As I mentioned in the intro, of course, you're a husband, but you're also a father of twin girls. Is that right?
Yes. 8-year-old twin girls.
8?
8, yes.
8. Wow.
Got my hands full.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, because the majority of the people listening to this are probably going to be dads, fellas maybe, at least. One thing I wanted to ask, and I'm going to be asking all guests that I'm going to get on the podcast who are fathers, is can you think of it like, what's the biggest sort of challenge you've ever faced or currently facing as a dad, whether it's anything to do with your business, whether it's, the time with your kids, or, what was just anything that's been a huge challenge for you as being a dad, or a couple of things, whatever.
Yeah, like trying to find balance, which I haven't. I don't know anyone successful. I think they're lying if they say they have perfect balance of family, business, fun. Nobody's successful is balanced. Like you can't make it to a high level. I don't believe you can make it to a high level of anything without with balance. Like if you want a successful gym, you need to you can't just work 9 to 5. You have to go all in. There needs to be sleepless nights, and you need to, isolate yourself and be kind of selfish to grow that business. And same thing, to be the best dad in the world. That's not just kind of being around with your kids, but you're on your phone while you're not really paying attention. Like that's doing more and going above and beyond. So with that being said, that's the hardest part, because I strive to be the best in the world at what I do. And that's not, I don't say that to be arrogant because I think I'm better than anyone. It's more just, I want to be the best in the world that I could be. Like I want to over deliver. Every one of my clients, I want them to say, no matter what they pay me, no matter what service that I've provided for them, I want them to say like, holy shit, like Joe was worth it tenfold, so that's very important to me. But it's also very important to me, and now even more important, to be a great father to my kids. And they grow up so fast. And so where I'm at right now, even you need to make sacrifices. And for me, the biggest sacrifice I've made, if you look at my business model, you kind of touched on it. Mm-hmm. I went from storage closet to a bigger, slightly bigger, 2,000 square foot, smaller, but bigger than a storage closet warehouse gym. Yep. Then 5,000 square feet, which was like my dream mega facility. A big reason why I shut that down and downsized and went back to now I'm in a 1,000 square foot private small facility was just because I had twins were born And like the first 2 years, I wasn't there for everything I wanted to be there for. I just sensed it. Like I'd come home and my wife would be like, "Oh my God, Ava took her first steps today. You wouldn't believe it. She walked across the kitchen floor." And I'm like, I was at work for that. And they did this and they did that. And finally, I'm not saying, I know very successful businessmen and dads that have multiple gyms and, big businesses and are still great dads. For me, it's just, I wasn't happy as much as I love the gym. All that goes into running a facility with trainers and coaches and just more stuff. And it wasn't making me happy because I was missing a lot at home. And online became a little more popular and more people were going online. And that's right when our Defranco Insider started up and started picking up some steam. So I saw, you use that word pivot. I could kind of pivot my business without losing my core of what I'm all about, which is helping people, achieve their goals, whether it's athletes or, general pop. I could still help people online through our certification. We could help trainers, and then that's gonna expand our reach 100-fold, because for every one trainer we touch, that we kind of indirectly touch their clients. And a lot of these trainers have 50 to 100, clients. So I shut down my 5,000 square foot gym, which was my dream facility. That was my first baby. I was so proud of that place. It was, named one of the top gyms in the world in every publication that ever did those type of lists. And shut that down to spend more time with my kids and be able to I still work my ass off and work 15, 18-hour days, but I'm able to do the online stuff on my own time. I could have dinner with them and spend 3 hours with them and put them to bed and then work on the online stuff at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, whereas the gym was a little bit different. So, I revamped my entire business to be a better dad. So to say that was the most challenging aspect and the biggest change, would be an understatement. But that's definitely mine, was doing what I had to do to make time, quality time with my kids.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you realize that, because I think a lot of us as dads would, whether we're trying to run a business or even just, bringing your work, if you don't run your own business, but bringing your work home, things like that, it's so easy to get, caught up in thinking, I've got to do this, and, not realizing that the kids need your time. But that's the cool thing, is that at least you realize that. So, and it all works out for you.
And the last thing on that, I do believe, I still don't think I'm balanced, and I still work probably more than most would want to. But that goes again with, like your shirt says, live your passion.
Yeah, the Defranco t-shirt on purpose tonight.
And I truly do live my passion, as I know you do too, and that enables you to. You could work those 15, 18-hour days, and not saying that it's all fun, but when you enjoy the majority of it, it's not as exhausting and stressful. You could do that. And then when I do spend time with my kids, maybe I can't spend 10 hours a day with them, but if I spend 2 or 3, I'm also all in on that. I'm not perfect. I certainly have days where, you kind of on your phone and you got things you have to get done. But for the most part, I make sure that time is quality, because that's more important than just time. I know a lot of dads will be like, I'm with my kids all day because I work from home. But just being in the same room, but you're all on your phones, to me, that's not spending time with your kids. I'd rather have 1 hour where we're engaged, we're talking, we're doing something, we're having fun, rather than 10 hours where we're all sitting in the same room with our heads down, you know, staring at our phone, or I'm working and I'm not paying attention to anything they're doing.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
Go for that quality time.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So with the, you're saying you sometimes be doing 15, 18-hour days then, how do you, because again, this is a big thing for a lot of guys, you know, girls too, is fitting in time to train. So when do you tend to, do you have a structure to it, or is it just like me? Do you think, right, I plan ahead and I think I'm probably going to have an hour then, so that's when I'm going to train, or do you have a good structure to it yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good structure, but I have the same one as you. But I started scheduling my own workouts, because just like I would, if you hired me and you have set appointments with me and you know I'm showing up for there,
mm-hmm.
I scheduled my own, because I realized if I don't schedule it, it's I'm the first one. And I think a lot of people in the personal training and gym industry know this. It's like the shoemaker who has holes in his shoes. They used to have that old expression.
Yeah.
The trainer who spends all day, every day, helping clients and answering questions and writing programs and doing appointments. By the end of the day, you're shot, and you're the one who got neglected. And I used to think, you know, it was kind of like a badge of honor. You know, I care about my clients, and I do. But long-term, especially when you start getting older, if you're not healthy, you're not doing your clients any good either. Because if they're getting, you know, Joe or Dan at 80% or 70% instead of 100%, that's not fair to them. So
Absolutely.
I started looking at it more from that approach, like, hey, get your own stuff together. Like, you're starting to let yourself go. Yeah. You're like, I almost felt I pride myself, and I'm adamant about being honest and real and transparent with everyone. But I almost felt a little bit like I was living a lie, because behind the scenes, I was eating a little unhealthy. My sleep sucks. I'm telling people how important sleep is, but I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night. Mm-hmm. I'm telling everybody that there's no excuse. Make time to train. Everyone has enough time, but I'm missing workouts because I'm saying I'm too busy. I don't have the time. Like, that's BS, you know? So I kind of called myself out on it. And that's where, if anyone followed my podcast on, I don't know, now it's 3.5 years ago, I had my nutritionist on, who, Dr. Tom Bilella, who I always sent all my athletes to for the last 20 years, and became good friends with this guy. I never personally went with him and did a full evaluation, blood work myself, because I was always so concerned about everyone else. I finally scheduled my own full blood work, and like a real appointment. Even though we're close friends, I paid him. I made an appointment. I drove to his office. He sat down. That's another thing. I think when you invest and you have some skin in the game, it makes it more real. And that was a huge eye-opener for me, because when my blood work came back, it sucked. Like, it was scary. Like, I did not have the blood work of like a healthy dude that's well known in the fitness industry as supposedly being a guy who, you know, knows what the hell he's talking about. I was unhealthy. And now being a dad, it's not just about me. It scared me more. I was like, shit, I want to be around for my kids for a long, long time. Yeah. That's it. I'm getting my diet back on track, changing that lifestyle, changing those behaviors. I'm scheduling my own workout from now on. I have to train at midnight some nights, and it's not always at the best times. And my workouts now are like between 20 and 60 minutes instead of between 2 and 3 hours like they were back in the day. But that's what I do. The night before, I look at my schedule. I see where I could fit it in. Even if I only have 20, 30 minutes. Now the difference also is I try to do something every day. I give myself one day that I shoot for 7 days a week, but I'm more than happy with 6. And even if I only get 5, I know that's still solid. But I go for more for consistency rather than like the perfect, 90-minute workout. I'm just trying to get something in every day, as opposed to it's got to be the perfect workout, 4 times a week, and then you end up not having time, you skip. So that's been a big shift for me.
Yeah, and that's you really touched on something that I preach to my clients a lot, or anybody that ever messages me about training, the perfect training split, this, that, and the other, is just doing something, especially now during this lockdown. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of coaches online who, I'm kind of pissing me off a bit, but saying everybody's got more time, but not everybody has got more time, because I don't know about over where you are in New Jersey, but
I think I'm busier right now.
The kids aren't in school, so parents who have been sent home from work, who aren't, the work shut down or whatever, they haven't got more time. But I just try and reinforce and put a big emphasis on just doing something, even if it is just using that 10 minutes to go for a walk. It's better than nothing. It really is.
Yeah, I had a Ben Bruno was on my podcast a few weeks ago, and he said, it's just such a simple little quote, but it's something that he tells his clients, because he works with a lot of celebrities who travel and are not always, yes, they have a lot of money and people working for them, but they're also, some of these, they're on a movie set for 20 hours. So he just said, he tells his clients, progress over perfection. Like, don't look for it's not going to always be the perfect workout. Just try to do a little something each day and make a little bit of progress in one area. And that, over the long term, that consistency is going to be much better than trying to be perfect, which is very difficult to do. And you're just going to get frustrated, and it's just not a good look. So I like that kind of progress over perfection, and try to just do a little something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but anything is still better than nothing.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I'm near enough done with your time now, but as we do every week, I ask all my guests to tell us an embarrassing story. I don't give a shit if this is to do with training, your personal life from back when you were a kid, whatever it is. So it was with it, Joe. What's your embarrassing story you've got for the...
Oh boy. So I don't think I've ever told this. This is super embarrassing.
Also, we're honored.
I'll share it with you, because I know you give a lot of, there is a lesson here, although it's super embarrassing. I know you give a lot of nutrition advice and lifestyle changes, and, creating habits, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. One thing that I think, I'm sure you've talked about, maybe you've even done videos on it, but one big kind of no-no, something that you do not do, is going food shopping hungry, right? Like, that's one of the worst things you could do. Okay. If you're starving and you go do your food shop and you buy all the junk, and it's just, that's like rule number one if you're helping a client. Hey, when you go food shopping, have a good healthy meal first, fill up your belly, and then do your food shopping. And so I'm going to blame that for this embarrassing story. Okay. And this was about 10 years ago. I'm a much better person now, because I'm embarrassed, because it's just not something I should have. I don't know why the hell I did it, but I go food shopping while I am starving. I make that mistake number one, doing my food shopping. The old ShopRite that I used to go to, where I used to live, there, right when you walk in, the bakery is right at that section, freshly, all freshly baked cakes and cookies. I have a weak point, or, my kryptonite is fresh, warm chocolate chip cookies right out of the oven. I go into this ShopRite, and they just finished baking cookies, and they have them, packaged. They sell like 6 of them, 6 freshly baked cookies at a time. They're like, whatever, $6. They're sealed. I grab one. I'm like, oh, I got to have these, with the intention to eat them when I got home. But while I'm shopping, I open the thing up. I eat 1. I'm shopping. I eat 2. Eat 3. I eat all 6 cookies while I'm shopping. And now this is where that's embarrassing enough. I'm supposed to be a fitness, health and fitness guy. But this is just embarrassing of the type of person I was, or maybe being hungry does weird things to you. I'm like, screw this, I already ate it. I have to pass that bakery section to check out while, to pay for my items before I leave. I take the empty cookie thing and I put it back on top of, I take the empty container, put it back on top, like, hey, no harm, no foul. No, I ate them already. Why pay for them? Which is something I would never do now. This is like, to me, this is like not putting your shopping cart back. Like, and I'm so adamant against just being disrespectful like that. But again, 10 years ago, bad judgment. I put it back. I pay for my stuff. I'm walking out of the store. It was like a movie or like an act of God. I don't know where this guy came from, but I'm just about to walk out the exit and the police officer cuts me off. It says, sir, stop right there. Officer so-and-so from, Hackensack Police Department. And I'm like, and right when he stops me, I'm like, oh shit. He goes, shit. You know what you did. And I go, I play dumb for a second. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like, I paid, I got my receipt. I paid for all the stuff that I purchased. He's like, we watched you on the security cam eat all those fucking cookies, and then you put them back. You put the empty container back. And so now I'm like, oh, I'm more embarrassed than anything, because I'm thinking he's going to arrest. Like, I think, shit, I'm getting arrested. I'm going to have to call, we weren't married at the time, but Ashley, my wife, was living with me. I'm thinking, she's going to have material on me for the rest of my life. If I call her from jail and say I got arrested for eating cookies and leaving ShopRite. So thankfully, I was like, oh, dude, I was just, they had me on camera. I fessed up. I go, dude, I'm so embarrassed. I apologize. Like, look, I paid for $200 worth of food. I don't know why the hell I would do that with the $6 cookies. He was nice enough. He was like, I should arrest you right now. That's technically shoplifting. Yeah. But he goes, listen, go back, get your empty container, and go to the and the cop walked with me. He went with me. I had to grab the container, stand on line. The cashier's looking at me like, this dude just bought, like, what's he doing back here with an empty container with a police officer? I pay for it, and he let me go. But dude, for the next 5 years, I would still shop at that store, knowing when I walked in, like, now I knew that there was like this little kind of, it wasn't like a trap door or anything, yeah. But it's camouflaged right where you walk out, where the security is. And every time I walk out of ShopRite, my heart would just drop, and I'd have flashbacks of the cop, coming out the door.
Every time you go in.
But by far the most embarrassing thing, not because of eating the cookies, but because I despised it. It's a disrespectful thing to do. Yeah. But I share that now because I am embarrassed. I will never, and will never do something like that. And that's why I'm so adamant about, like, put your shopping cart back, respect other people. Yeah. That was like my rock bottom, and now I've become a much better person from it.
Yeah. I think the surprising thing for me about that is, obviously, again, having followed you for so long, is knowing that your dad was a New Jersey State Trooper as well.
And oh my God, he would, I don't know, I don't think to this day, I don't think I've ever told him that story, because I was so embarrassed of it. Oh my God, if I had to call, because I would have had to call someone to, like, come pick me up. Exactly. It would have been my wife to be, or my dad would be the next one. Even though I was 33, 34 at the time, he probably would have kicked the shit out of me when he got there.
That's a really good story. I enjoyed that one. That was a good one.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough to beat when you ask other people for embarrassing stories.
Definitely. I think I'll be honest, in my head, the way the story was going, it was going to be your dad waiting outside the store for you.
That would have been worse. That would have been worse.
Definitely worse. Right, so we're at the end of the show, Joe. So thank you so much for joining me. But before you go, obviously, do you want to let the guys and girls listening know where they can find you on social media and things like that? Because obviously I know you're a big Instagram guy these days. So where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. On Instagram is where I put most of the free content on social media. I'm at Defranco's Gym. I try to post every day, a couple times, or at least a couple times a week. A lot of free videos and info on there. Yeah, and then with Smitty, shout out Jim Smitty Smith, my partner in crime, in our CPPS certification, which is online now. We have a phenomenal, as you know, Dan, we have an online course, which you could take at your own time. There's no time limit on it. Go at your own pace. You could pause the videos, rewind them, and you get lifetime access to all the video modules. So we're super proud of that, especially at this time.
Perfect time.
It's more valuable than ever. So you could learn more about the online version of the course at cppsacademy.com. And then also we have a really kick-ass membership community at defrancoinsider.com. A lot of great coaches, trainers, and just people, not even those in the industry, just people into fitness and health on there. We have a private Facebook group to go along with the website that's very active. We do live Q&As every week, every other week. So awesome community over there as well. That's the big three places to find me.
Yeah, and just to add, I can speak for all three. Obviously, I've followed you for a very long time on Instagram now, and you put a ton of awesome training content out there. But any perspective or even current personal trainers, coaches, if you haven't looked into the CPPS course, I strongly recommend that you do. I've done the course online. As much as I would love to go over to the States and do it, which I still intend to do one day, Joe. Maybe when I come over and help out to Sean at the Performance Centre, maybe one day. But yeah, the CPPS course, I strongly recommend that. That is the current level you have to get to be a personal trainer in the UK, the level 3 personal trainer as it's called. In most places is more expensive than the CPPS, but the level of knowledge I gained from doing the CPPS is just ridiculous. Honestly, it's hands down. The course is just unreal. And that's not just to kiss your ass, Joe, but it is for anyone listening who's just thinking about it. I really, really recommend you checking it out. Or the Defranco Insider. Again, I've been a member of that pretty much since day one. I think that's a great resource as well. So that's pretty much it, guys. So thanks again for joining me, Joe.
Appreciate that feedback. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It was an honor.
Awesome, yeah, and the honor's all mine. Honestly, it really is. So I'll speak to you guys on the next episode. And thanks again, Joe.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.